If you're here to learn about our community and how our communication protocols can have a profound impact on how we relate to one another, you're in the right place. Indigo and I are going to co-present this and bring some Texas and some New Zealand to the house and some of the protocols that we use together. But I'll first use a protocol that we use in Texas to introduce ourselves. Howdy, y'all. It's a real short introduction that just requires saying, hi. I mean, we've all got these protocols of introduction. And I think if we look at all the different types of protocols for introduction that we have all over the world, we have bowing in reverence to someone, possibly giving a high five or shaking hands in a particular way. All of these ways that we introduce ourselves and these protocols are what makes us human and how we connect with one another. There's different types of introspection that go into these introductions. Much of the time they're very quick and let's get down to business, but not everywhere, not everywhere. I've spent a lot of time traveling around and visiting different places, and I found people that take more time and more introspection before they start getting down to business. And I think that we all want our applications and the things that we do together to all run on Kubernetes in a swell way. And the Kubernetes Conformance Working Group from the CNCF is there to give us a nice shiny badge that says, your apps are safe and will run here. And I'm here to talk with Indigo around how we can use these protocols to better get a visibility into the connections that we can have for covering your applications in the cloud. New Zealand Maori do a lot of introspection before they start communicating to gather the context of where they're from and why they're there in that moment of contact. Taking this time to communicate it increases the awareness of the connections they have within their community. I think that if we take some time and make room for a little more verbose introductions in our applications, we'll be able to gain some of the insight that the New Zealand Maori have within their communities for hundreds and hundreds of years. At this time, I'm going to use some New Zealand Maori protocols in order to invite my friend Indigo to the stage. Kia ora, Indigo.
Kia ora.
Sorry.
Kia ora. Tēnā koe, tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Indigo Phillips tōku ingoa. Ko Aotearoa tōku kainga. Ko Rotorua tōku moana. Ko Tarawera tōku maunga. Ko Ohanamutu tōku marae. Ko te aroa tōku waka. Ko te aroa me tai nui tōku iwi. Ko tūwhare tō me Ngāti Whakaue tōku hapu. Nō reira, tēnā koutou katoa. I've just shared with you what us native Māori consider very personal information in the process of introduction. Our people have been doing this for centuries. I'll translate that in English for you. Welcome and greetings to you all. Ingoa means name. My name is Indigo Phillips. I'm a web developer. Kainga means home. My home is New Zealand, and I live in the North Island, which is the top island on the map. Moana means lake, and my lake is Rotorua. My ancestors lived on the island in the middle of that lake once upon a time. My mountain, Maunga means mountain. My mountain is Tarawera. My ancestors lived at the base of a volcano in the 1800s. They don't live there anymore. My marae, or marae means meeting grounds. My meeting grounds are called Ohinamotu. This building is called, or known as Tamata Kapua, and our people meet there for all occasions. Waka means canoe. My ancestors arrived on the Aotearoa canoe hundreds of years ago. We were the first people to inhabit New Zealand. Iwi means main tribes. My main tribes are Tainui and the Waikato, which is in the middle of the North Island, and Te Aroha. Hapu means sub-tribes. My sub-tribes are, I have many, and I won't recite them all for you, but the main tribes that I directly link to are Tū Wharetoa and Ngāti Whakaue. This is what we call a pepeha. This is what defines me, or who I am. To Māori, this is a very important, deep, important meaning for us. I'll also share with you whakapapa means genealogy or ancestry. These are some of the photos that I've managed to find of my ancestors, or some of my ancestors. In particular, the one at the top is the marae at the base of that volcano that was subsequently destroyed after a volcano in the 1800s. Whakapapa is also a very big, important part of who we are. It's identity, and that's who we are. So I'm going to give this gift of whakapapa and pepeha to the hippie hacker, and he will, I guess, put it in context for you in relation to code.
Thank you very much, Indigo, for sharing the protocol and your own intimate whakapapa and pepeha with us. You may wonder why I'm having all this focus on allowing space for a really long introduction. And it's because it can have great application within the context of how Indigo has a relationship with all these different places, and she has community off the bat and able to work within her connections. If I were to map some of these things out into, well, it's not a YAML file, but this is a arbitrary example, right? A short introduction might be, she's Indigo, she's Inzi Maori, and she's on a journey, and the journey brought her at this moment to be speaking at KubeCon. But she had to get here, so she traveled to Shanghai from New Zealand. And why is she doing that? Because she wanted to share her culture with the tech world. And we really appreciate that, because it's going to show us how, in the way that she's connected to very specific sources and locations, particularly where I share and live in Tauranga Bay of Plenty, Aotearoa, land of the long white cloud, and her iwi there, and the other iwi that she's connected with in Rotorua, about an hour away. This is a very tangible, real, long-form protocol of introduction that has lots of context. What if we started doing these style of long-form introductions for our applications every time they communicated with one another? You can see that we now know much more than just this was kubectl for a particular architecture. We know that, yes, of course, you're talking to us right now, but why did you decide to come here today? You wanted to get a list of nodes, and you did that because you're using client Go, and you did that because a command line was called. That's the journey. But what were the locations that brought you on that journey? Where are your sources? And we can find exactly which line of code brought them here. And what's interesting about these parallels is that both the concepts of location underneath tie it back to people. Specific people who wrote those lines of code, who maintain that, who are in the owner's files. We all know that applications do, some of them introduce themselves when they talk to each other, but it's this informal, short form of introduction. Mail servers say hello or hello, depending on if they're the server or the client. And they say, hi, I'm Exchange, or hi, I'm SendMail, or hi, I'm Exim. And that's from the server side. And the client says, hi, I'm mail.app. Hi, I'm on your phone. They all get this really short form. Web servers and web browsers also give this information. The server says, hello, I'm Nginx. Hello, I'm IIS. Hello. And we started looking at the introductions of the browsers a while back. We noticed they kind of acted differently when they showed up. Say, oh, IIS is showing up. Quick, let's get out the IIS library. Or Safari is showing up, or Explorer, the different versions. And it was useful to know who was at the door. But we didn't really know why they were there yet. P2P programs also give a little bit of information around the application. They say, this is the particular version of software. All of these are really short forms of introduction. But communicating the name of your application is somewhat useful, but not enough, not for what we're trying to do within the community. We just started recording the user agent in Kubernetes in the audit logs in version 1.12. And that gave us a little bit of room to start recording which applications were showing up and a little bit of why, just to give us a little information about themselves. In that space, we decided to choose one application, the E2E test suite, and say, E2E test suite, when you show up and do all your things, could you tell me which tests you're running? Could you tell me why you're here? That turned out to be really useful information for the APIsnoop project. This is a loop through the coverage graph for our sunburst chart that shows where we started and where we are through conformance at 1.9, 1.12, and going forward. While useful, it only shows us percentages. It doesn't allow us to drill down into more meaningful data to help us write meaningful tests that make sure that your applications will run everywhere that Kubernetes is certified for. When the E2E test suite was updated to tell us these tests, we now have the capability to I'll go over a particular endpoint, possibly the endpoints that your application uses, and you can see which tests hit your endpoint of interest. When you see the mouse over in the lock, you'll see the list of tests here for the list core v1 nodes. And this is the test, once it clicks on the right, one of those tests. This is the journey that that test takes through the API server. What if we went a little bit further beyond conformance tests? I think it's just the beginning. If we could find a way to communicate the ideas of whakapapa within our application so that we had this really verbose set of why we are here together for Helm, for all the Kubernetes components, for your applications. Take a minute to look at this for a second and see if you can spot any common patterns. It's a really simple, arbitrary, contrived example, I know, but they have different sources where they start. The CLI within Helm or within kubectl, they're both trying to do something around pods in their own repositories on different lines. But then they step into the locations, so the client Go library, and they're using the same path, and they're doing the same journey after they run their command line. If we were to run this against all of our applications, we could start to see the unseen patterns of usage. We could come up with very meaningful tests that use the same style of the same source code, right? But part of the conformance test that define what Kubernetes is. We have, again, this is about connecting the people together that write the client Go library, that write the kubectl and Helm to let them know they have similar paths together, and to let us know what we need to do to write tests. This is about the people. And we have a proposal. It's been called the most metaphysical KEP yet. A KEP, in case you don't know, is a Kubernetes enhancement proposal. And what we're proposing is that we make room, just make some room, for more verbose introductions in our protocols, so that the New Zealand Maori whakapapa and the concepts like what Indigo has shared with us today could be part of the core libraries. We're not asking that you do this all the time, but it should be an option to make room for these verbose introductions. What that would allow is to give us a bunch of data. But what do we do with all that data? How does it make it meaningful to take actionable things within our community? Well, we've been exploring some ways to bring up easy access to the data and how to use machine learning and visualization on top of that so that anybody can participate and start with something that works and modify it slightly so they can say, what about this? Look at this insight into our community. So I won't go through all of this, but Binder is a service that we've set up on CNCF CI where you can drop in a repository. It's a great project. And it will go through and build the containers and infrastructure necessary so that you have an interactive notebook. You don't need any software on your computer. Just go through and click on the URL. And what we hope to do is invite you to help us to work on that KEP, to get the enhancement proposal through, to incorporate and make room for making whakapapa, and then help us to generate meaningful, actionable information from that for our test out of the Binder and the information there. So those are our two kind of call to actions. They're not written directly in a list, but talk to us about the KEP. See if we can make room for the protocol. Participate in doing interesting visualizations with the data. And I want to go through and quickly thank Zach Mandeville. He's not here, but he's been heavily involved in the rewrites of the APIsnoop project for the visualizations we have. Indigo Phillips, of course, for coming all the way from New Zealand and gifting the concepts that are from her culture to our community. And Devin, who's been working heavily on the visualizations in Binder. And Stephen and Ben for keeping us in the air while we're going. I want to leave you with this Maori proverb. He aha te mea nui, o te ao. He tangata, e tangata, e tangata. What is the most important thing in the world? It's the people, it's the people, it's the people. If you want to join us, we're on APIsnoop on the Kubernetes Slack, and our current insights and visualizations will always be up at apisnoop.cncf.io. And of course, we're on GitHub at cncf/apisnoop. If there's any questions, we'll take that, but thank you very much for your time.